Alright guys, we are back with another video, a little bit different than what we've been doing in the past, but decided to take the F-150 to work last night, and it actually broke down and died in the drive-thru here at the Dunkin' Donuts. So I ended up getting it over here into a parking spot. Basically, the engine just kind of cut off in the middle of me sitting in the drive-thru with it. Check engine light did come on. Did not get a chance to actually read it yet, but I do have the scanner here, so we'll check that out and see what it is. A little bit of background on the truck. Back in around February or March of this year, I was taking the truck to go pick up a new enclosed trailer that I was buying. I got all the way out to this guy's house and basically blew the timing chain out of the valve cover. So I guess the timing guides were shot and completely rotted away. So the timing chain had a bunch of slack in it, and it ended up getting sent through the top of the valve cover and basically blew a hole in the top of it. So did end up doing a full rebuild on it. Well, not a rebuild, I guess a timing job. Redid the oil pump, timing chains, timing guides, cam phasers, all that stuff. So truck's been running pretty good since then. It has an occasional misfire on cylinder 6. I don't know what it is, but now the truck won't start up. So let's throw this scanner on here and see what we're seeing. All right, we got everything hooked up. All right, so it looks like we got code P0191, fuel rail pressure sensor circuit A. Let's see if we have another one. We have P0174, system 2 lean bank 2. Okay. So looks like a fuel issue. All right, let me do some research on what that could be real quick, and then I guess we'll start tearing into this. All right, so we've narrowed it down to about 3 things. And sorry for the noise. I got one of these things behind me, but could be 3 different things. So it could be the fuel rail pressure valve, which is this piece right here. It's just held on by 2 bolts. It's got a vacuum line hooked up to it and then a connector. That could have gone bad, so it might not be getting the right or the accurate reading on the actual like fuel pressure up top on the rail. Another thing that it could be, it's going to be kind of hard to see it, but back down in here, up top here, there's a it's a fuel sending module. So it basically is what tells the fuel pump how much fuel to send, I think. That could be bad, or it could actually just be the fuel pump itself. But let's try and start it up though here and see what it does. Alright, so it actually fired back up. Still got the check and it just died. Okay, so that was pretty quick. Now let's see what it does now. Now it won't fire up at all. Let's try and take the key back out and see what that does. Huh. So if you take the key out, completely out, and cycle it and put it back in, it'll start back up, and then it just died again. So we're definitely not getting any fuel. Alright, so we're going to try a couple things real quick. We're going to try and disconnect the battery and see if we're able to basically reset all the sensors and the fuel modules for it. So we're going to disconnect it, let it sit for about 10 minutes or so and see if that does anything. We're gonna let that sit for about 5 minutes or so. Alright, it's been about 5 minutes or so, so let's throw that back on, see if that did anything. fired right up. It's idling for now. I can feel it starting to shake a little bit, but let's see what happens when we give it gas. Still sitting at about 1,000 RPMs. Just trying to put it under a load, see if it does anything. Huh. So, not sure if you could have seen that earlier, but still sitting right around 1,000. So it's definitely not fixed, but this might be good enough to get it back to the house. I'm only about 1.5 miles away from the house, so maybe we'll try and get this thing back to the driveway. That way we can really dig into it and tear it apart there instead of doing everything here. Let me pack up all the parts and put everything away in my Jeep. That way I can leave that here. We'll try and get it back to the house. All right, well, right after that last clip, started packing the Jeep up, left the truck idling just to see if it would stay running. Went back to go check it out, and it was completely dead. So we're gonna end up leaving it there for another day or two. I'm gonna go order a couple parts, and then I guess we'll check back in a couple days and swap out some parts. I'm gonna order the fuel pressure rail, or the fuel rail pressure switch, and the fuel sending module. Those two I could hopefully easily replace in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. If that doesn't fix it, I'll probably just have to either flat tow it or get it towed back to the house. There's no way I could do a fuel pump in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. So we got the parts on order. Well, I'm gonna order them as soon as I get home, and then we'll check back in a couple days. All right, so the truck is back at the house. We ended up going there back to the Dunkin' Donuts around like midnight. We were going to flat tow it back. I was able to get it started, and I basically just floored it and came all the way back home. So I stayed on the gas the whole time, so it didn't die. As soon as I pulled it into the driveway though here, it did end up stalling back out. But we got our parts in today. It's the fuel rail pressure sensor and the fuel sending module, which are these two parts right here. So pressure sensor and then the fuel sending module. This obviously is on top of the fuel rail. This one is back underneath the truck, on top of, or on one of those cross members. So I think we're going to start off with replacing this. This is going to be the easiest one to replace since it's right on top of the engine. It's 2 bolts, 1 connector, and a vacuum line, which is right there. So let's swap that out and let's see if that changes anything. All right, so I'll take the vacuum line off first. Take the connector off. And you gotta be very careful with this. It's a pressure sensor, right? So there's definitely gonna be pressure here. It's best to do it if the truck's been sitting for a while. I brought it back to the house Tuesday night. It's now Thursday morning, so shouldn't be any pressure there. Trying to take it off evenly. I don't want to take one side off more than the other. And let me blow that off real quick just so I'm not getting any of that dirt in there. All right, let's see. One bolt off. It's just like spring loaded. And the second one off. Alright, so there is this little O-ring here, which the new one has on there, so definitely make sure you're taking that out. But looking at the two parts side by side, they are exactly the same. So let's get the new one in there. And then the same thing goes for when you're reinstalling it. You want to make sure you're putting it back in evenly. You don't want to crank down one side and then crank down the other one. You want to apply pressure evenly. I'm not sure if there's I'm sure there's a torque setting for it, but I don't know what it is. Just don't over tighten it. Alright, so now that we got that in, let's first turn the key 2 clicks and see if we have any fuel leaking out, just to get the fuel pump turned on. Alright, well, I don't see anything leaking. I also didn't even hear the fuel pump kick on, which is probably not good. Let me try that again. Alright, I think I heard it that time. Alright, so we're gonna leave the camera here. Hopefully it doesn't fall into the engine. But let's turn it on and see what happens. Alright, so right off the bat it's running better. Alright, let's see. Okay. Well, I just tapped the gas and it died, so. Okay. Well, the easy part wasn't the fix. So, alright, let's drop the spare tire and mess with the fuel sending module. Alright, so I'm pretty confident that the last person to touch this spare tire was probably the guy that installed it back in 2006. It's gonna be a pain trying to get this thing out, but up there is where the module's at. I can kind of reach it. It's just gonna be hard to replace it, but I did get the plug off. So we're gonna plug in the new one and we're gonna test it to see if that fixes it. If it doesn't fix it, I'm probably not gonna replace this right away. If it does fix it, we will figure out how to get the spare tire off. So let me see if I can do this with the camera in my hand. Alright, so the new one's plugged in. Let's test that and see if that works. The original one looks okay, but everything I read is because of the aluminum back of this and the steel from the cross member, and it basically sits flush on it. There's a lot of like dirt and road salt and corrosion that happens between the two, and they end up basically just kind of rotting out from the inside. So let's try it. Let's see if this new one works. All right, test number 2. Alright, so it's running. Let's give it a little bit of gas, see what happens. Alright, so seems like it's running better. I don't know, maybe. Alright, I'm gonna let it sit here for a little bit and see what it does. Alright, it's been running for a couple minutes, and it seems like it's doing okay. And before everybody says replace the fuel filter, check to see if that's good. I already put a new one in. I did that when I did the whole timing job on this a couple months ago, so that's brand new. Alright, so the truck did not stall out, so maybe I think we might have fixed it. So module's still dangling down there, so let's drop this spare and actually install that all the way. So tire is down. There it is. Doesn't look that bad, but it's It's running now with the new one, so let's get that one out of there. Alright, so here's the old one. Looks fine, but seems like it's running better with the new one, so we're gonna switch it out. But looks like the new one mounts pretty similar, but instead of it being flush up against it, they give you these spacers. So basically I'll thread this in where the old one was, and then I'll be able to throw a washer and a nut over top of this. So that'll give it some space off of the metal rail. So that way there's room in the back, so dirt and salt and water and all that stuff won't get stuck between the two. It'll just space it out about 1/4 of an inch. But let's throw that in there. Alright. And then should sweet, slips right over. And then the nut. And then we'll just replug in the connector. Alright, cool. Before I put this spare tire back up, I'm gonna start it back up, make sure it runs, and then as long as that's good, we'll put the spare tire back in place. Alright, sweet. It looks like we're good. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm probably just going to drive it around like locally for now, just to make sure that everything is running and working the way it should. But for now, let's get this tire back up in place. Alright, that's going to be a wrap for today's video. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see some more videos like this. So far the channel's just been me working on some boats, but definitely want to branch out a little more and start covering some more stuff. So let me know down there if you guys want to see more like this, but hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more.